This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githu. It's Monday, February 10th. This is Africa 54. An unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods as swarms of locusts increase in Ethiopia, Somalia, and move to Kenya. Africa 54 takes a closer look at Burundi's upcoming presidential elections. And FIFA proposes a $1 billion fund for African football stadiums. Desert locust swarms are causing great damage in Ethiopia and Somalia and are now a major threat to food security and livelihood. The increasing locust swarms are migrating into Kenya, where they have spread to 14 northern, central, and southwestern counties, reaching within 200 kilometers of northeast Uganda and southeast South Sudan, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. Food crops and livestock forage are being heavily impacted in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya. The swarms are uncommonly large and can consume huge amounts of crops and forage. Somalia is the first country in the region to declare a state of emergency over the infestation. This is the worst locust situation Somalia and Ethiopia in at least 25 years. Kenya was last affected by the infestation of this scale 70 years ago. East Africa governments are conducting aerial and ground control operations and spraying pesticides to kill the large swarms. Worries of contracting the rampaging coronavirus has the citizens of mainland China crippled by fear. Many residents are now living in self-imposed isolation, locked inside their own homes. Health and government officials worldwide are on edge as they seek the best ways to protect their citizens. Chinese authorities say the death toll on mainland China from the outbreak has now reached over 900, surpassing the number of deaths caused by the SARS pandemic of 2002 and 2003. China's National Health Commission on Sunday reported another 97 deaths and over 3,000 new cases of the virus, raising the total number of cases over 40,000. Millions of people remain under lockdown in Hubei province, the epicenter of the outbreak. Residents there are complaining of food shortages. A Chinese commerce official says poor logistics, price increases, and labor shortages are to blame. China's central bank says effective Monday, it is making available $43 billion to help businesses involved in fighting the epidemic. Meanwhile, the virus has spread to at least 27 other countries and territories. The two deaths outside mainland China were in Hong Kong and the Philippines. The two-day African Union Summit is wrapping up in Ethiopia on Monday. The leaders met in Addis Ababa on Sunday to discuss an end to violence on the continent and advance the construction of an African continental free trade area. This year's theme is silencing the guns, creating conducive conditions for Africa's development. Musa Faki Mahamat, chairman of the AU Commission, says the summit aims to end wars, civil conflicts, and gender-based violence in Africa to achieve peace and promote better development across the continent. Mahamat noted that the successful mediation of the Sudan issue in 2019 shows that with the support of the international community, Africans are fully capable of solving their own problems independently. Mahamat also stressed that Africa is willing to resolve the Libya crisis through political negotiations without external interference. Now, in 2019, human rights demonstrations were plentiful across some of Africa's capital cities. VOA producer Paul Ndiho explores the reasons in this report, narrated by Zoe Ludaki.
In Sudan and Guinea, demonstrators were frustrated with the governing of long-time entrenched leaders. In Zimbabwe, angry protesters mostly vented over poor economic conditions. Human Rights Watch released its most recent report card on Africa in Johannesburg last month.
We've seen, I think, the average men and women of the African continent taking agency, being agents for their own, for the changes they wanted to see. We saw an increase of peaceful protest in different countries. The second, I think, takeaway is that we've also seen a backsliding from government in terms of political and civic space.
In Rwanda, 6 members of the opposition United Democratic Forces of Rwanda party, formerly led by Victoire Ingabire, are in jail after being convicted of forming an illegal armed group and conspiring against the government. Ingabire is an outspoken critic of President Paul Kagame, who served 6 years of a 15-year prison term before being released in 2018. Now the government is allegedly detaining and abusing children, but the government is denying such accusations. A United Nations report on ethnic violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo reveals documented killings that may rise to the level of crimes against humanity and possibly even genocide. For nearly 2 decades, the DRC has been the scene of sporadic, deadly ethnic conflict. The UN says violence in Congo has claimed millions of lives.
The report says the barbarity that characterizes these attacks, including the beheading of women and children with machetes, the dismemberment and removal of body parts of the victims as trophies of war, reflects the desire of the attackers to inflict lasting trauma on the Hema communities and to force them to flee and not to return to their villages.
President Felix Tshisekedi is promising to end violence and has called for a national reconciliation. But his critics say that that's not good enough. Meanwhile, violence in eastern Congo continues to rage with no apparent end in sight. Last September, the United Nations warned that in Burundi, police, security forces, and the ruling party's youth league, the Imbonerakure, were committing severe human rights violations. Despite President Pierre Nkurunziza's announcement that he would not run in the presidential election in 2020, tension has continued to rise. The Human Rights Watch report says that in Uganda, in 2019, the situation remained static, with violations of freedom of association, assembly, and expression. The government arrested its opponents and blocked political and student rallies. The government's continued failure to ensure accountability of abuses does not bode well for a country heading into 2021 general elections. The United States dropped Cameroon from the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act over allegations of human rights violations in its English-speaking regions. The crisis has cost more than 3,000 lives and displaced more than 500,000 civilians from their homes. But the Deputy Africa Advocacy Director for Human Rights Watch says in terms of human rights, overall, Africa is moving in the right direction.
Who could have thought al-Bashir in Sudan would be overthrown? Who could have thought that would happen in Nigeria, in Africa? We're sort of looking at the Arab Spring. So people are being more aware of their rights to demonstrate, to protest.
Across Africa, hope for improvement in human rights is on the rise. Since taking power in 2018, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has implemented sweeping political reforms that won him the Nobel Peace Prize for his restoration of friendly relations with longtime foe, Eritrea. For Paul Ndiho, I'm Zoe Liudaki, VOA News.
Burundi is expected to hold presidential elections on May 20th. The ruling National Council for the Defense of Democracy, Forces for the Defense of Democracy Party, announced in January that Secretary General Evariste Ndayishimiye will be its candidate for the election. Several rights groups are condemning Burundi for restricting freedom of expression and violating human rights ahead of the vote. Now, for more insight on Burundi's politics, I'm joined by Valentin Kavakure. He is a non-partisan presidential candidate. Mr. Kavakure, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Non-partisan presidential candidate. Now, what do you hope to change if you get elected to the top office?
We hope to bring a new trend where Burundi will be more open to business, will offer more opportunities for our youth. Currently, Burundi being a landlocked country, the economy is not doing very well. So we hope to bring in our experience, our youth, our exposure to the Western world so that we could create more job opportunities and improve the social atmosphere, the living conditions.
Now, you're talking about we, and I know that you've spoken to us previously talking about representing the youth of Burundi, but what sets you apart from the other presidential candidates?
I believe that I have the advantage of being not only youth, from the youth, but also of having traveled a lot, having gained experience left and right, but also my economic background. I am a businessman, so I know what are the hardships, what are the obstacles that everyday Burundians who wish to improve their status, their economical status, what they encounter. But the more importantly, I know the hardships of our people. Our people right now, Burundi, the people are very poor. The economy is not doing well. Agriculture is not doing well. Health, education. So all those sectors need a new strategy, a new approach.
Now, we're just counting months before the elections takes place. Is there a level playing field when it comes to the presidential candidates?
Well, saying that there's a level playing field right now is a bit difficult, but we are allowed to voice our ideas. We're allowed to express ourselves so far. We have about 10 to 12 candidates so far, and so far no incidents in the last few months have been registered. So we hope for the best, and we hope that we'll have a fair campaign, which will start so that everybody gets same airing time, same access to same media, and yes, and then that they don't restrict freedom of expression, and they allow journalists to cover and monitor the elections. We really hope for that.
Now, your very quick response to what we've heard from Human Rights Report and even the European Union and other civil rights group about violations of human rights in Burundi. What do you see as the future of Burundi?
The future, we are advocating to have a reform in the justice system so that everybody be treated equally, so that everybody be facing the same justice, they be facing the same laws. Right now, we still have a long way to go. There's still some flaws, but we hope that we can improve on that by trying to make the judicial system a bit more independent, because right now it is really dependent from the executive, yes.
So do you see a position where maybe the opposition and non-partisan people like you can come together and have a united front?
Yes, we hope that as we're maturing, Burundians are maturing democratically, we hope that we've been trying to talk to other non-partisan politicians and parties so that we can see the possibility of joining forces and maybe, trying to go as one bloc against the main ruling party.
Right. Mr. Kavakure, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Valentin Kavakure is a non-partisan presidential candidate in Burundi. We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, good news for Africa's football fans and players. We'll be back. Hollywood's big event was characteristic with evenly distributed Academy Awards among men and women in many categories. And though minorities were mostly excluded, the South Korean film Parasite won 4 Oscars, including Best Director and Best Picture. VOA's Penelope Pulu recaps the night.
It was a big night for South Korean filmmaker Bong Joon-ho, who won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Best Picture, for his film Parasite, a dark satire on social inequality in South Korea. Bong Joon-ho commented positively on how the Academy changed the name of the former Best Foreign Film category to Best International Film category, indicating more inclusivity by the Academy of non-U.S. films. He also commented about the significance of the Academy's recognition of Parasite, a South Korean film. Sam Mendes' film, 1917, an Oscars frontrunner about 2 World War I soldiers running against time to deliver a message that would save 1,600 lives at the war front, won 3 Oscars, including Best Cinematography. Brie Larson, Sigourney Weaver, and Gal Gadot, all known for playing superheroes, quipped about how difficult it is to be a woman in Hollywood, while Weaver said, "All women are superheroes." Hildur Guðnadóttir won an Oscar for the Joker film score, and in her acceptance speech, she encouraged women to follow their passion and talent for music. Other women also won the night, such as Julia Reichert, co-director of the documentary American Factory, and Carol Dissinger, director of the short documentary Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl. In the major acting categories, Brad Pitt won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for his role of a down-and-out stuntman in Quentin Tarantino's film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. During his acceptance speech, he made a political comment about the Senate not calling witnesses in President Trump's impeachment trial. He said, "They told me I have 45 seconds. 45 seconds more than the Senate gave Jeff Bolton this week." Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar for Best Actor and delivered a gripping message about inclusivity. "I think at times we feel we champion different causes," he said. "But for me," he continued, "I see commonality. I think whether we are talking about gender inequality, racism, queer rights, animal rights, we are talking about injustice," he said. Laura Dern won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her role of a cutthroat LA divorce attorney in Marriage Story. She too felt very strongly about the exclusion of women directors by the Academy, such as Greta Gerwig. The performance was stolen by Jane Fonda, who announced the winner for Best Picture and closed the ceremony looking radiant and effervescent. Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Now for more on Hollywood's biggest night, VOA entertainment reporter and host of VOA's popular Upfront radio program, Jackson Vunganyi, joins me live from Los Angeles. Jackson, it was an exciting night of firsts. Break it down for us.
Absolutely. Hello, Esther. It was a historical night at the Oscars, the biggest night in Hollywood. They made history in many ways, but most importantly because Parasite, the first foreign film to win Best Picture here. The Academy has been criticized for its lack of diversity. There were no women directors, even though 2019 was a stellar year for women directors. More films were made by women in 2019 than any other year, but they were not nominated. Still, lots of history made. Bong Joon-ho won for Best Director, beating out Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino, and others, strong, heavyweights here in Hollywood. He did give out a shout out to Martin Scorsese. He received a lot of standing ovations. There was a lot of, great cheers. People felt happy for him. And he said that, if you see the happiness here in the room, imagine what is happening in Korea right now after his win.
Right. Jackson, now, given last night's awards, what's next for Netflix as far as Hollywood is concerned?
You're right. Netflix, I think there's a reckoning by Hollywood that Netflix is a major player here. The old gatekeepers of films are starting to acknowledge. Netflix came in with at least 24 movies nominated, even though it only took 2. I should mention also that Laura Dern, who was, I think she won for Best Supporting Actress. She had been nominated previously, but this was her first win, which was also historical. Former President Barack Obama's movie, American History, the documentary, that his first project with Netflix, also won big. There's really a reckoning and understanding that Netflix going forward and other streaming platforms are going to be major players here in Hollywood.
So, Jackson, what was the mood like there, the red carpet throughout the night, and what are you coming back to Washington with? What kind of memories?
I live with so many memories. It was such a great night. This is an experience of a lifetime, The red carpet, it rained a little bit. Actually, not a little bit. It did have a heavy downpour here in Hollywood, but it did not stop the party from going on. The red carpet area is constructed in a way that the rain does not, come down on the movie stars. Obviously, well protected. It was raining, but it did not damp down the fun. So many fashion statements made on the red carpet. Actress Natalie Portman, embroidered on her dress the names of female film directors that were snubbed. Another, first that we should mention is Matthew Cherry's movie Hair Love won for Best Animated Short, and he gave tribute to Kobe Bryant. Matthew Cherry is a former NFL player himself, and Kobe Bryant, who recently passed away here in LA, is a former Oscar winner, and they, gave a tribute to him and, shout out. So that was really great.
Okay, Jackson, thank you so much. Bring the stand-up back here in the studio. Jackson Bunganyi reporting live for us from LA.
I'm Clara Frank, and here's what's trending. A Cape Town restaurant has been declared the Guinness World Records official title holder for most varieties of milkshakes commercially available. With over 200 designer milkshakes on their menu, Gibson's Gourmet Burgers and Ribs has a shake to satisfy every sugarholic. Mainly served in a standard 330 milliliter glass, reminiscent of the 1930s American malt shop era, the milkshake menu includes fat-free shakes, vegan shakes, frozen yogurt shakes, adult shakes, and freak shakes decorated with indulgent toppings, served with eco-friendly straws. Next up, dozens of non-alcoholic spirits have entered the beverage market in recent months, according to manufacturer Seedlip. Why? A greater concern with personal appearance and wellness has led to a recalibration of consumers' relationship with alcohol. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, binge drinking, defined as at least 4 or 5 drinks in a row, is declining across the board, and the number of Americans binge drinking in a month is now below 30%. Last month, Dry January was marked for the 7th time across the world since it was launched in 2014 in Britain. And finally, Hollywood pulled out all the stops when it came to creativity on the Oscars red carpet. the overriding trend of the evening's fashion was no trends. From column dresses to sparkle to satin, the frocks covered the spectrum of sartorial options. But there were enough original and outside-the-box looks to keep fashionistas wowed and others scratching their heads. And that's what's trending today.
It's time for our sports report, and joining us now is Sunday Shomari. Sunday, it's Monday.
Yes, Esther, it's another wonderful Monday. And let's look at African soccer. Okay, after effectively taking control of African soccer, FIFA says its mission to speed up reforms on the continent is complete. Okioko reports.
FIFA is ending its 6-month intervention in African soccer's governing organization, saying its mission to speed up reform on the continent was, quote, successfully completed. World Soccer's ruling body effectively took over the running of African football after corruption scandals engulfed the Confederation of African Football, or CAF, last year. That included allegations against CAF President Ahmed, which he has denied. Now that FIFA's work is apparently done, it has presented the CAF Executive Committee with a number of proposals. These include the creation of a group of professional referees and a $1 billion fund to invest in infrastructure, including stadiums in all 54 African member associations. Some of the ideas were outlined by FIFA President Gianni Infantino and include a Pan-African Super League with 20 permanent teams, and holding the African Cup of Nations every 4 years instead of 2. New initiatives in women's soccer, youth categories, and national team competitions were also proposed, as well as a 100-point good governance plan.
Thanks, Okioko. Good report, and that wraps our sports for today. Back to you, Esther Ewart.
Thank you, Sunday. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, have a good evening.